But we are right smack dab in the middle of our fall mini-series, if you will, uh, Consider. And last week, as Mike introduced this series, he spoke of our faith being a we thing. And we're called to exercise our faith in the context of life and what is going on around us. And he used the words of Paul, who wrote in Philippians to the Philippian church, because he had a fondness for them. He was remembering them because of the impression that they placed on his life and on his ministry. And in Philippians 1, we see a small glimpse of these feelings when he writes these words: I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And so Paul speaks here of a partnership in the gospel. Paul feels a unity with the Philippians in the work of ministry, and this connection has not been lost because of time or distance. And last week we looked at generosity and the part it plays in making a difference for the kingdom. I like the quote from last week. It's not what you have that is important, but rather what you do with what you have. And that phrase carries over to today's topic, which is serving, and what it looks like to consider where you might be placed in service in an area of ministry. This morning, I want us to look at a portion of Scripture coming from the Sermon on the Mount. So we go to Matthew chapter 5, and I want to look beginning at verse 14. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Jesus, preaching to his followers and his disciples, begins by saying, "You are the light of the world." That's personal. That's a direct pointing the finger. He is talking directly to you when he says, "You are the light of the world." But he follows it with this phrase that I want to focus on today. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Some translations refer to it as a city on a hill, and some scholars suggest that Jesus may have been referring to a nearby city that was built on a hill, and it was clearly visible by the very place where Jesus was preaching. And so Jesus first refers to the individual, "You are the light of the world," and then he refers to a town or a city. And so this morning I want to suggest that as a body of believers, as Christ's church, we are like the city on the hill that cannot be hidden. And being part of the town or the city on the hill comes with responsibility, both as individuals and as the church. How we identify as the town or city is directly dependent on the lights within the city limits. In other words, the more light we have in the city, the bigger impression it makes on those around us. But first, you have to focus on your own light. And then we come together as a beacon to our community and the world around us. The church provides opportunities for your light to shine before others through service to its operations and ministries. Together, we become the city on the hill that cannot be hidden. We were driving on the Schuylkill Expressway not too long ago, and we were coming from Bryn Mawr heading towards Philadelphia. Now, Philly is not a city that's built on a hill, and so as close as you might be to the city, you can't see it until you're right up close. And on the day that we were traveling, the time that we were traveling, the sun was setting, and through the trees, you could see the sun reflecting off of some of the buildings, which of course is a big nuisance to the driver because it's blinding at times. But if you were from out of town and hadn't been in the area before, you would be able to tell that you were near the city because of the way it was reflecting the light of the sun. That's who Jesus is calling us to be. Not physically on a hill, but reflecting the light of Jesus to the world around us in such a way that it's evident. And as we look at this particular passage in the Sermon on the Mount, we find that Jesus calls us to first be a strong light where we are, so that when we come together, we truly reflect who He is. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. Your first opportunity to serve comes within the boundaries of your own homes. Your lights can only be maintained when you are actively seeking to be in the presence of the Lord in the everyday of your lives. You need to be personally impacted by God's grace and mercy in your life in order to be the light that Jesus calls you to be. And that starts at home. And as you feed the light of Jesus in your life, you become that light for others. Jesus was talking about his death to his disciples when he said in John 12, "You are going to have the light for just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you might become children of the light." Jesus' disciples had the unique opportunity to learn directly from the Master. But his time with them was coming to an end. And he wanted them to make the most of their time together so that they were prepared to carry his light in his absence. And so, like torch bearers, those who have taken these words to heart have carried the light through centuries until the time came when it was passed on to you. And here you sit today, children of the light. But with the light comes great responsibility and the opportunity to be a light to those within your household. And for those who find themselves living alone, there is extended family and friends that look to your light. Your lampstand is shining in such a way that anyone who comes into your house or comes through your door should recognize the light of Christ. Your home becomes a place where the Spirit resides and where others notice. And your home is a part of a slightly larger community in the neighborhood. Tina and I used to joke about how our old house looked in relation to the others on our street, because most of them had landscapers, or they took a lot of time on their own taking care of their landscaping and their lawns. We worked tirelessly on our own to make ours look like theirs done by professionals. Of course, we had the challenge of some giant trees with some big roots and a lot of mossy patches, which made it difficult. But more important than how our lawn looked in our neighborhood was our testimony and our witness to the people living around us. It's more important that your light shine through your actions and your interactions than necessarily the appearance. I love to watch home reno shows. And something that they talk a lot on those shows is about the bones of the house and how the bones being good is important. They walk you through these homes in the beginning that are falling down around them, and they talk about what it could look like with just a little adjustment here or there. And of course, the basis for a simpler home reno and the kind that they talk about in the very beginning of the show, their great plans and dreams, are based on the bones being good. If the house has a solid foundation and there isn't any rot or other deterioration going on inside of the walls, the bones are good. Sometimes they get in there, and almost every time they get in there, and they discover that what they originally anticipated to be a simple job was going to be a little bit more challenging because some more work had to be done, and there was more damage within the walls and within the interior than they originally thought. And when it comes to your faith and building a strong foundation for your faith, I think a good challenge would be to ask yourself how you would rate your faith based on where you are today and where you were maybe 5, 10, or 15 years ago. Have you seen growth in your faith? And if you haven't been a believer for that long, then have you seen a difference today than maybe a year ago, or even just weeks or months ago? Whatever the time frame, feeding your faith consistently over time will build you a strong foundation to continue to grow on. If the house is built well from the start and it's well maintained over the years, the bones are good. If your faith isn't growing, and maybe you feel stuck, it doesn't matter what you may look like on the outside. You may go to church, you might go to Bible study on Wednesday night, hang out with your church friends on Friday night, but you're not really walking in the light. And if everything was stripped away, what does your faith really look like? Society today likes to make things look really good. We have Instagram, and we have Facebook, and they're filled with awesome pictures of Norman Rockwell-like family gatherings and celebrations. We can make our lives look amazing on social media by what we do and by who we spend time with. But at some point, we need to do a reality check to what is really going on in our lives. The challenge is to ask yourself the question, are those around me able to see me for my faith or for my faults and my facade? As you strive to be a light in the world, it begins in your homes and it begins with your families. And so when you watch a home reno show from beginning to end, you see the amazing transformation. The bones are good even if they weren't at the beginning, and the foundation is solid. The interior has been completely redone, and it's a comfortable place to live. And so the last piece of the puzzle is, what does the outside look like? And we call that curb appeal, right? When we were in the process of selling our house, we thought about that often. What do the curtains look like from the outside? What does the light look like at night? Should we go and remove the leaves again? And of course, the lawn was always a concern, but what we discovered was that realtors can make your lawn look really good in pictures. Because the lawn that we saw was not the lawn that was really in front of our house. And so that goes back to that, what we can make our lives look like on social media thing. Curb appeal is what your home looks like to others. Home ownership is a never-ending journey to make certain that you have a safe and a sound place to live. And when you have that, it's evident to the people around you. Your faith is no different. You need to be actively growing your faith and growing your relationship with Jesus, daily trusting and walking with him, seeking the leading of the Spirit and seeing his work through time and events in your journey. When you're a believer and you've placed your heart in him and surrendered to his will, you are the light of the world. Your household benefits from your light, and those around you see the light that you bring into the world. And then we read, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. In the same way, in other words, in the same way that your light shines at home and it makes a difference to your household, in the same way, let that light shine before others, that they might see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. When we come together, when our journey of faith convenes in this place as Christ's church, we become like the city on a hill that cannot be hidden. But that doesn't happen just because we come here. That happens because of what we do when we come. Our light shines bright when we reach out to the community through mission projects, through monetary support, and through special events. Our light shines when we come together to allow ministry to happen just like this in this place. Our light shines when we share creative ideas and undertake small jobs here and there based on the talents that God has blessed us with. And I can tell you, as your pastors and staff, we see the potential of our city, and we want to take it to the next level. We believe that this city on the hill, St. John's Church of Turnersville, has the talents, the resources, and the power of the Spirit to transform lives for Jesus Christ. But it takes all of us to create the city on the hill. Within the Gospels, we find two statements of Jesus, which kind of come as a rally call to all of us to consider serving. In Mark 10:45, Jesus said, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." And then in John, when Jesus was washing the feet of the disciples, he said, "I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you." Jesus was willing to do whatever it took to make a difference in the lives of others. What that looks like depends on what the needs are, and what you are called to do will look different from what someone else has been called to do. Remember just a few weeks ago when we were in 1 Peter, and we talked about how each of you should use whatever gifts you've received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in various forms. Don't miss that last phrase, stewards of God's grace. What are you doing with the grace that you've been given? What does it look like to accept the grace of Jesus Christ as a gift in your life that you can offer to others? And as part of that message, we were given the opportunity to fill out a spiritual gifts test, or a spiritual, it's not called a test, an instrument that I talked about as the thing that I cheated on a long time ago. So it's a good instrument if you're trying to discover your spiritual gifts. But it's also a good thing sometimes just to take a leap of faith and try it. Like the Nike ad, the old Nike ad. Just do it. When you consider serving, you need to ask the question, what am I doing with my faith? Do people know I have a faith in Jesus Christ? Is it evident in my life that I've received the grace and mercy of a loving God who desires to be in relationship with me and with the people in my life and the community around me? Accepting what God has offered and choosing to walk with him daily is when you become a light to the world. Doing something with your faith to further the cause of Christ and doing your part for the kingdom of God is being a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. There are many needs within this city, within this church, that can be met by your involvement and by your making the choice to put your faith in action. In James 2, we're reminded faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. So it really isn't just about what your faith is doing for you, but what your faith could be doing for someone else. Now, please don't hear this wrong. I wasn't given the task of coming up here this morning and making you feel guilty or feel guilted into doing something that perhaps we have the immediate need for. My testimony and my personal experiences in service have made this a passionate topic for me. I am continually amazed at how God can see you through dark moments in your faith by keeping you active in the community of believers. When you make the choice to get involved and to serve the way the Word calls you to serve, it strengthens your own walk as you see Him at work as you bless others. When you hear people saying things like, well, it's the same people that do everything, you know why that is? Because those people have experienced what it means to make the choice to serve. And they've experienced what happens in your life when you're serving alongside of others. I'll admit, it's hard sometimes to get motivated and take that step. Our most recent work day that we had here at St. John's was a particularly busy day for Tina and I struggled to get myself here. But once I got here and I was with the others who were here and we started working together, we had great conversations. There were lots of laughs. There was food, but memories were made. And when I walked away that day and I saw all the leaves piled in the corner and I smelled the sense of a clean church, it just felt like it was a good day. And when I came to church the next morning and I walked across the parking lot and the entire property was covered in leaves again, I was reminded that maybe that day wasn't just about the work as it was about why we do what we do and why it's important. I apologize if I've told this story before. I'm pretty sure that I have, but it made such an impact on my life. I love to relive it, and I love to tell it, especially this time of the year. I remember growing up in a church where my family went frequently to get involved in service opportunities together. We had a strong-knit family, but it was even stronger when we were at church and we were with the other families at the church. My parents had some great friends that they loved to spend time with, and the children just couldn't wait to get there and be together and to run around the church. And on Thanksgiving, for a few years, we put together a meal and invited people who were otherwise alone within the community. The adults prepared the feast, and the kids put on a little show after dinner for entertainment. And in the weeks leading up to the dinner, we would go out into the community as families, and we would hand deliver invitations to specific people who we knew were either alone or in need. And one year, in the hours leading up to dinner, when the parents were all in the kitchen and the kids were running around, a man walked in to the church off the street. The entire church smelled like roasting turkey. I was the only one in the lobby when this gentleman came through the door. Now, I know to you today that's scary, that a kid was left alone and a stranger came in off the street. But I was by myself in the lobby when this gentleman came in. And he could tell that something was going on. And he asked me, he said, "Is there a dinner that's being served here today?" And I remember like it was yesterday saying that there was a dinner, but you needed an invitation. And so he turned around and he walked out the door. Now, I was just a kid, but something told me almost immediately that I should have told him to stay. I've never forgotten that man because I was taught at an early age what it meant to reach out to those in need and to serve in such a way that you're meeting the needs of the community and the world around you. Last year, Jen planned a dine and donate for VBS. And that night reminded me of those days when I was little and when my kids were little and the parents were at work putting together, prepping the church for a week of VBS. one of the biggest weeks of the year, and the kids were running around having a great time together and had small craft projects of their own. That's what a city on a hill looks like. Because of those moments, ministry happens in such a way that 200 little lives are exposed to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the church becomes stewards of God's grace. Last week we talked about considering generosity, and the discussion of finances can be intimidating when you feel like you just can't give anymore, or you're going through one of those times when it's financially challenging, when you feel like you have nothing more to give. Perhaps the alternative is to give of your time and your talents. And I can assure you, there is always a need for your time and talents, regardless of how much you can give. And so as we seek as a church to be a city on the hill, we've created a visual that you may have passed on your way in this morning. There are several opportunities to get involved in service here at St. John's. And we've placed these cards up on the green wall that you'll see lit up halfway between here and the Family Life Center. And they're color-coded, so each color represents a ministry of the church. And at the top of the card is a particular role, something that we're looking for, a need for from a volunteer. And then in the blank space in between, there's a description of what that need looks like. And then we're asking you, if you find a card that fits you, to take the card down, write your name, phone number, or email address, and place it in the basket. We also alternatively have a QR code. You can scan the code and fill out the form online and submit it that way. If you do it that way, either take the card with you or discard of it, because each card that you see on that wall represents a current need. And some of them are long-time commitments. Some of them are short-term. Some of them are coming up within the next couple of weeks. Some of them we need to start immediately. But those cards hanging on that wall represent opportunities for you to consider serving here at St. John's and being part of our city on a hill. There's 3 things that I want you to remember as you do this. First, prayerfully consider how you might serve. How does God want you to serve? Where is He leading you to serve? And then secondly, plug in. That's what we're calling that wall. It's kind of our plug-in wall. It's an opportunity to get plugged in to a ministry. Which role is the best fit for you? And that will come based on how God leads you. And then third, prioritize. We're reminded in Colossians that whatever we do, do it from the heart as for the Lord and not for others. You're not doing this for us. As a staff, as pastors, as a church, we believe that we are in line with God's will for the ministry of this church. And so we present these opportunities for you to talk to God about it and to put your life and your role in line with His will for you and for the city on the hill. And so prioritize what He's calling you to do and to be part of. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A town on a hill cannot be hidden." So let's be a church whose light is evident in the community and the world around us. Consider serving and adding your light by plugging into one of the ministries of the church that could use you in the days and the weeks and the months and years to come. Let's pray together.